to host and to assist us in our meetings. Legni Lima is also with FSR. Ada, great to see you. Sad not to see you on the board anymore, but I'll forgive you because you should.
It's like if she was.
Yes, it is. But that's really helpful. So whenever you want to see an item, you're not able to come. You're always able to go back to those videos and take a quick clip. You can scroll down our agenda and do that. So we have some real exciting. We're going to call this meeting to order. Great. I don't know if I put a motion. I'm not going to look at Michael Moore. He's going to kill me for doing that so casually. But I am going to do a few more welcomes and introductions. We have Commissioner Samuel that is here today. Hello. Our founding secretary of Mbna and Mbna member, Commissioner Michael Mbna. Which I don't really get the vice mayor thing, by the way. Is that because the commission votes you to be vice mayor? Or you get appointed to be vice mayor? How does that work?
For which day?
For the commission,
Vice mayor.
in Miami Beach. Vice mayor?
Oh, it's rotating. I'm not even the vice mayor anymore.
Oh.
They should just get,
Are you the vice mayor?
No. It's actually, I think it's Malaga at the moment, but I have the most spice, so they like to leave it.
So is it like monthly or? So the rotation, is it monthly? Is it weekly? How does that work?
The rotation is.
The vice mayor title, we're all vice mayor at some point. It rotates, I think, every 4 months by group member.
It rotates every 4 months. I'm going to repeat it into the mic because if I don't, the camera doesn't catch it. So it repeats every 4 months. Well, welcome to ex-vice mayor. Now, our next, future vice mayor. Future vice mayor. So you're always keeping me much more sharp. Thank you, Ada. So we are going to welcome, last time we actually gave a lot of, we have a few candidates here in the room. I think I see Adrian Gonzalez. There we go. What group are you running for?
Group 6.
Group 6, City Commission, no?
Yes, John Allen seat.
Okay, are you sitting next to your colleagues there to see if you get some good pictures from them?
Right in the middle. I'm used to it right now.
They're the devices.
Yeah, I don't need devices.
No. Just in case. And Blake? Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
And you have association. Do you have issue with Collins that you're going to be taking care of?
We met this morning with DOT. Clive actually came and met
How do you feel?
I feel good. I mean, they were very responsive. It does seem like we're going to get some things moving. They addressed our issues and agreed with our issues.
Awesome.
We'll talk about that.
And Clive took, I have a radar gun, and he actually took it back down, and they're going to be doing some radar speeds. We're checking ourselves to see what the speeds
Your
are.
husband, how did your husband end up over there? You live in Mbna.
Okay, that's on the agenda.
He came up today, I told him what was going on, and I knew he would be interested, and I thought maybe so. That's the reason I sent a Facebook page to see if
We
anybody
did. We sent it out to the board and to the members. Thank you. We're excited to hear that. And we have 2 projects on today's agenda. The person sitting behind you, Miss Linda Weston, is going to talk about 2 projects that are going to coincide. And I hope that both although you're outside of the Mbna boundaries, we hope that we can collaborate on that. And what seat are you running for?
I'm running for Group 6 as well.
Group 6.
I am.
Okay.
And we just joined, we joined this with a friend. We actually
Yes.
filed today, put in our application, and we do want to be a part of this, at least associated with it. Even if we can't vote, we want to be with you guys. And so we put in our application today, and I dropped off a check for our bill.
We sincerely appreciate the support. Let's hear it for you. Great. And so our next item on today's agenda is the Mimosa 5600.
Treasurer's
David Diamond. 600 Regatta, even wrong. Exciting. So we have a new hotel member today, and they are a neighbor. Who would that be? Eden Rock. Let's give it up for Justin. Eden Rock. Justin, it's always really awkward here, so don't worry. It happens very often. I know this is the first time you're not in that. Okay, thank you, Jack. Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, so next, and we are. The meeting agenda did switch a little bit. New business. I realized that when I posted the meeting agenda, I accidentally put new business before old business, and I was corrected by the ex officio that old business needs to go first. So we will be jumping into project updates just before the mid-beach safety concerns. I apologize, Officer Hazy, we'll have you here for a few extra minutes today. But we are very excited to hear your data and your update on the mid-beach safety concerns. Okay, so our treasurer's report, go ahead.
Okay, the treasurer's report for meeting May 1st. The current balance in Iberia bank account is $3,298.51. Our Iberia bank balance as of 3/31/2019 was $3,100. Our deposits since April 17, 2019 for the last meeting was 0. Checks written, 1 to Publix Bakery for $51.49 for our cake last month. Accounts payable, 0. Our total membership to date is 45, 36 condominiums, 9 hotels. Applications completed and we're waiting for checks. The Como Metropolitan Hotel. Our potential new members, we're waiting for 18. Actually, it's 17 now that the Mbna has joined.
Thank you, Eden Rock. And what does a potential member mean? They've come to the meetings, they've gotten an application, they've reached out to you, they did the W-9,
Yes.
something's happened, they haven't paid, they still come to the meetings, they
Yes.
still reach out to you, they still do the W-9. And
And
then who are those?
their general managers change.
Exactly. So who are those folks?
Okay,
Eden Rock, you can scratch my.
6080 Hotel, which is a new hotel condominium up near 63rd Street. The Mason Ground, which their president has changed. The Confident, Miami Beach, the Cadillac Hotel and Beach Club, the Ocean Spray Hotel, the Bath Club Residence, the Circa 39 Hotel, the Sylvie Red Hotel, West Over Arms Hotel, the Alden Hotel, RIU Plaza, Miami Beach, RUI, Miami Beach, Galleria, La Costa, La Rive Gauche, Sopamar, Arlen Beach Condo, Grand View Condo.
Okay.
So, if anybody knows anyone in any of the ones that were just mentioned, if they could put in a good word for us and let them know how important it is to join Mid-Beach, and so that we have a stronger voice.
Wonderful. So as of right now, and I don't think we have the Eden Rock included in that, but if we did, then we would have
46, and for sure, Como.
okay, we would have a solid 40% from every property, every condominium, and every hotel in our district as part of our action. And remember that each member is to go back to their board, communicate with your board, let them know what the issues are, find out what your position from the condominium or hotel perspective is, and allow us to know so that as we form our positions and go to the commission, we're able to truly represent the collective of the Mid-Beach properties between 24th Street to 63rd. Great, thank you so much, Melinda. Great, thank you for keeping us financially healthy, even though you bought that cake last time. So our sponsor today, 5-Star Claims Adjusting. Did everybody get this? Did everybody see the spread today? Yes. We should videotape the spread. It looks really nice. And all the wine. Did anybody get some wines or any of the drinks? Look at that. There's like 12 bottles over here, and they haven't even been touched.
You don't want to bring any of it home. You guys said, please, you can drink. We'll wait and stay with you.
Okay, you're going to kill me because I can't remember your name perfectly. Adam Goldsman? Goldman.
Close.
Goldman.
That's why I wanted to
I should not have forgotten that. Goldman. We should never forget. So, Adam, tell me a little bit about 5-Star Claims Adjusting.
Well, thank you very much for having us tonight. We appreciate it. And I'm serious. I want you guys to eat and drink. I'm not schlepping that on, so please. We had the honor of coming out and talking to you guys. We are private claims adjusters, primarily dealing with commercial properties. We've been around since 2005 after Hurricane Wilma, and now we're closing in on having recovered $600 million for policyholders. So as commercial private claims adjusters, we represent policyholders, not insurance companies. So we have the honor of locking arms with associations to help them put together their claims packages to get properly paid. And so just so I understand who I'm talking to, roughly by a show of hands, did anyone here have a claim in the last year and a half? Any of your associations have a claim in the last year and a half? Come on, be honest. I'm not going to call you. It's okay. You raise your hand. So there's a few claims here. Was anyone here? There was a windy day here back in 2017. It was in October. It got really windy. So much so they gave it a name. It was Irma Day or Hurricane.
September 9th.
Was anyone here during that?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it very windy? Yeah. Okay. So a lot of what we do now, working with associations, particularly in this area, deals with Hurricane Irma, obviously. We don't only deal with hurricanes or catastrophic losses, but here in South Florida, we have documented wind speeds in this area from 75 to 92 miles an hour. And so 92 miles an hour is certainly sufficient to do considerable damage to windows, to doors, to roofs. It's a very serious windstorm. It was hurt you guys. If anyone who was here, it was, you know what I'm talking about. So you were here.
Well, what is claims adjusting? So we know we have to make claims when this wind destroys some properties.
Yeah.
But what does your company do that others don't?
Sure.
And who do you service in Mid-Beach right now?
Gotcha, okay. So the question for you at home was, what does a claims adjuster do? So as claims adjusters, so we're licensed and appointed by the state of Florida to represent policyholders, right? So if you've had a claim, you know the insurance company sends out, they send out their claims adjuster, and it's probably not a big surprise that the claims adjuster represents the interests of the insurance company. And so if you have a good agent that can represent you and help you and navigate that nuance of your claim, that's invaluable. And in addition to that, you need a licensed adjuster that puts together a claims package. So what is a claims package? Like what do we actually do?
The pictures, the report.
The pictures, the reports, the engineer's reports.
Okay,
It is endless and voluminous, and it requires a license. And so having an insurance company come in without assistance from a licensed adjuster on your behalf would be not unlike going into a court of law, sitting across from 6 opposing counsel by yourself. That's what it amounts to. And so we're licensed to represent the policyholder.
Have you represented anyone in our district from 24 to 69?
I would have to pull the references.
How about anybody in Miami Beach?
Yeah, but
Miami-Dade?
We're in Fort Lauderdale.
Your Patrick, she's good. She's tough. I see why she's got this job. I would have to get you the references. Yes, we do. We work in all over South Florida. We have an office in Fort Lauderdale with $500 million in recovery. Yes, a lot of it comes from South Florida, Miami-Dade.
And your fee is based on a percentage of whatever we recover for us?
Question related to fees. And so, yeah, the answer is, yeah, we work on a
Give them
contingency.
the answer too. Talk to the mic. Give them the answer.
The answer is that we work on a contingency. If we're not successful at delivering you, if we can't recover any money, we don't get paid. Right? And so when we go and look at a property, if we don't think there's a claim there, I can promise you I don't want to spend 6 weeks documenting your property unless I think I can deliver you a check. There's absolutely no reason to do it. And so what's timely? What's timely for you guys right now is that there is renewal language that carriers are putting into commercial policy that, and I'll leave this here, I can email, can you put it on your website?
Yes.
I will give this to you guys, but basically what it says, and I'll read it, this excerpt is very brief, and if you don't understand this, let me know, because it's very, very important. It's hereby noted and agreed that this policy does not cover loss caused by, resulting from, contributed to by, or aggravated by, resulting directly or indirectly from the above-named storm. Well, you can't see the above-named storm is Irma. Such loss is excluded regardless of any cause or event contributing concurrently or in any sequence of the loss. Okay, you're shaking your head like, what is he talking about? So, exactly right. This is in your policy. If you don't know what it means, it's a problem. It's a major problem. I'll tell you what it means in layperson's English. It means that if you haven't documented the condition of your property, if you did not have a claim, so everyone who didn't raise their hand who did not have a claim, guess what? You need to document that there was no damage to your property. The carrier, upon renewal, is now putting in verbiage that says, unless you can prove there was no damage prior to whatever this future storm is, we could take the position that this damage that you have, that you're showing us, was actually related to a prior event that you can't document didn't happen.
So do you do that? Do you do that inventory for them, or are you just encouraging them to do it?
No, we're not encouraging you to do it. It's very specific. It's very, what you need to document and how it's done has got to be done to the standard of what the insurance company is going to look for. It's not as easy as walking around and taking some pictures.
So, I use these guys, right? Whenever I have a major issue with claims. That clause right there
You
is.
use 5-star?
Well,
There's one, we're asking.
Yeah.
There you go. One endorsement, ladies and gentlemen.
I use them for my clients. I don't use it for my association. I think I haven't had that issue. But that clause right there is extremely important because you know what that is? Equivalent to a health insurance policy. That's a pre-existing condition clause. Think of it that way. So if that clause is in there, right, and you have a claim now, right, and they go back and they say the clause is in there, look, that's really caused by Irma, so this new claim is not covered because this Irma clause is in there. So that's extremely important and to document and get it resolved.
That's layperson's English right there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. Okay, any questions for our sponsor? Ada.
If somebody put a fake claim against our building because he committed fault and he pretended to injure himself.
We can't hear
Or
him.
pretends. Is that something that we work with?
So if I understand your question correctly, you're saying if someone has like a liability claim against you, typically not. We represent you in claims against your carrier for property loss or damage. So in closing, what we're doing is going out to properties, making ourselves available to go to your property and document its current condition. One of two things is going to happen. We're going to either document that it's all in perfect condition and does not meet any objective criteria for a claim, and we're going to issue you a certificate of good condition. This you can file. We will host the photos of our inspection, right? So we'll
How
come
much
out.
does that cost?
How much does it cost? $0.
And I get a certificate?
And you get a certificate. So one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to get this fancy certificate from a licensed adjuster appointed by the state of Florida to represent policyholders, and we're going to host a file for you such that if you have a future claim, you'll be able to say, now hold on, insurance company trying to deny my claim. I'd like you to talk to my friends from 5-Star. They were just here a year and a half ago, and that's not what they found. Does that sound like it would be helpful? Okay. Alternatively, we're going to go to your property and
Because I thought it was closing.
yeah, well, it's like a run-on sentence. We're almost there. We're almost there. But I got a lot of food to amortize with this little speech. And so, in closing, and I mean it this time, I mean it in closing, to recap, and I maybe start over. So either we're going to go out and document everything's cool, we're going to host a file, if you have a future claim, everything's cool, you can call us, we've already been to your property, we know it, and we keep the carrier at bay. That's all. That's scenario one. Scenario two is we go out and realize, like, oh my gosh, come to find out that 70 to 90 mile an hour winds that hit this area specifically created damage that you're not aware of, and you could be owed a substantial check or settlement from your insurance company. And you may not be aware of it because the insurance company is the only one that came out, and that's really not their deal, is it? Does that make sense? Do either of those scenarios sound like a bad thing? If your insurance company owed you a substantial check, is there any reason why you wouldn't want it? No. Okay. So at the end of this, we'll be seated in the back of the room. We've made ourselves available to come out and look at your properties. We don't charge anything to do it because we know that whether it's now or down the road, we will end up helping you with the claim. And we're happy to do this work, provide you a certificate without charge.
Very good.
One last question?
Yeah, I just want to ask you a question. If you put a claim in for $1 million to the insurance company or to the public adjuster, and they approve the claim for $1 million for a new roof or new this or new that, do you have to do that work? I mean, do you have to replace all the windows, put a new roof on? Once you get the money?
Yes, generally speaking, yes.
And what if you don't do it?
Okay, so the question is, if you don't do it, what happens?
That's why I'm asking the question.
If you have a future claim, and it was in any way related to an item that was paid for previously by the carrier, but not repaired or replaced, then any damage, not only to that, but the results from that will not be covered. So it's a really bad idea. It's a really bad idea not to do something that they authorize and pay for. I would not recommend it at all.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
one last time. So when we founded Mbna, it really wasn't thanks in part to the leadership of Commissioner Mbna, and it was around a project. We rallied as a community around a project that was coming here, the Collins Safety Project, from 47th to 58th. And it was going to basically impact every property that's in this excuse me, even those south of 41st within our district, because it was going to be 4 years of construction. 4 years of construction right outside our properties. There was going to be water, and there were, what was very upsetting, they were going to remove, after the project was done, 4 years, we would have 5 crosswalks left. Well, you all went to the public meetings, you all spoke up, and together in coordination with the city, we were able to work with our partners in Mbna, and they stopped the project, I believe it was 60% in design, which was positive for us, only because if we're going to do it, let's do it right. We went to the commission several times, thanks again to the support that we had from our leadership, and we were able to now come back, and there's $300,000 in the budget. I believe the bid went out in October. It was provided, it was given to Atkins, won it in March, and now they're scoping. Is that correct, Samantha? Tell us a little bit about that project and where we're at now. Yes, the other mic. And so Linda Weston from the Department of Transportation of the City of Miami Beach. City, guys, city, let's be nice.
Yes. Not FDOT.
Not FDOT, not
But
FDOT.
FDOT is now a good friend of ours because they were able to mitigate the negative impact of that project. And let's go back to a planning phase. And this next project is going to be aligned with our city's transportation master plan, which is what the residents really wanted to see happen.
This is a very valuable meeting for Eden Rock in particular.
Exactly.
We'll tell you about it in more detail later so you can go back and tell them what we're doing here.
Absolutely. Anne Marie's absolutely right. The project was stopped via Commission Resolution 2018-30518. So that was a very positive development. FDOT listened to the city. They stopped the project. So what they did in the meantime is they allocated $300,000 of new money to do a planning study for this section of Collins in Indian Creek. So the money is available in fiscal year 1920, which starts in July. They're going to be letting the project to the consultants in the end of October of this coming year. They will be awarding the project at the end of March of this coming year. So we'll coordinate with them on the scoping in the next few months. I have meeting requests out already. So we will absolutely feed them the Miami Beach Transportation Master Plan, the bike ped plan, the street design guidelines, and the input from all of you to help during the scoping process. So,
but why is this even more exciting? We just learned the county CEO, the Transportation Planning Organization, who plans all the transportation projects throughout the county, or funds them to be studied, I don't know if that's correct, but there's a project that's now being done from South Point Park all the way to Aventura along Collins Ave. And they're kind of a little bit of a friend of this other FDOT project. So how does that county, bless you, whoever's coughing and choking. So how does that county project help us with the city project, and what does that mean for Mbna members?
So the project will help Mbna because it will follow up on the 2007 Coastal Communities Transit Plan, and that plan was much more in line with the City of Miami Beach Transportation Master Plan objectives. It was a multimodal, transit-oriented, which is what the master plan of the city is, the direction they're going in. So what's also exciting is that study is already underway.
What does it mean to be multimodal, transit-oriented?
So that means that it will accommodate not only cars, but buses, bicycles, and pedestrians.
And this is a top priority in that process.
And the exciting part is that it's already started. They've had a kickoff, technical kickoff with a steering committee, representatives from each of the cities from Aventura down through to Miami Beach. So I believe it'll be done in 9 months. There will be at least 2 public meetings. So we'll work with Anna Marie to make sure the message gets out on those. And they're going to be ahead of this FDOT study. So the recommendations in this planning study will be able to be fed into the FDOT planning study. So that will help move these
Expedite
projects
the
along.
process. So it's especially important, Mbna reached out to them today, we're waiting to hear back from them, but it's especially important for all of your constituents, all the members and all the residents and everyone in the hotel management to be present at these public hearings. Those 9 months, remember, this will directly impact all of Collins. It's not just this strip, but the entire Collins from here to Aventura. So it's important for us to be well represented. Alicia?
I'm not sure if you're aware, we and the Mbna have been opposed to multimodal concept. We have firmly believed in designated bicycle lanes. Is that something that we've thought, okay, the theory of multimodal is phenomenal, but we have advocated.
You're getting the terms confused, I think.
She specifically just said what multimodal was.
Right, but I think you're thinking of shared use path.
Same thing.
No, it's not. So multimodal means that all modes of transportation are being considered in a planning study, not just car-oriented planning. Shared use path, what you're talking about and what you have been opposed to in the past, if I'm correct, is having a path that shares the uses of different modes on one. So for example, in this space,
the bicycle and the cars go together, and
exactly.
let's be respectful of them. We have advocating for a separate. Okay, so so the study means that you're going to study the whole thing, but let's just if we're going to be strongly and advocating for designated bike lanes. We do not, and we've had many people in our organization and elsewhere stating how dangerous it is to be riding and to have bicycles zigzagging through the vehicles, and we want those green lanes, designated bicycle lanes, and that's something that I'm not sure if you're aware of it, if that can be thought about and reminded as we go through this process.
That's a very good comment, and that's something that is very timely because we can work that into the FDOT scope, and we can also provide that as input to the study that's going on, the separation of uses.
Absolutely. If we can keep that in mind through this whole process, it'll make a lot of us that are the users very happy. Thank you.
So Alicia, just for the record, are you stating as a board member of Mbna that you are in favor of multimodal as long as there's separation of uses?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure we
As long as there are separate designated bicycle lanes throughout our city.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Linda? Okay. As soon as we know when those meetings are coming up, we'll start rallying our troops. Thank you, Linda. Can we give a round of applause?
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda today is, and for those of you, the agenda has a hyperlink to the link that will give you the updates from FDOT. So that's been included in the agendas. You can access those online. GeoBond update. So Commissioner Sanguilin came several months ago, I believe it was in October, and gave us what, from his perspective, would be the benefits of having an Inspector General and the GeoBond passing. And we here at Mid-Beach were adamant, we weren't really sure if we were going to support it. I think our board voted in favor of supporting it, but it was because we were in favor for the entire beach. But the proportion of funding, when you subtract the amount of funding that's going to beach-wide projects, the proportion of that funding that came to Mid-Beach compared to the proportion that we contribute from hotels and condominiums, it was a lower proportion. And so we felt that it wasn't, we weren't equitably represented.
Compared to north and south.
Right, fairly represented. So we'd like to try to make the most of the projects that we do have, and we'd like to better understand the other 54 projects where we're not included, or we are included in some of the general ones, but maybe a portion of the ones that we aren't. So we have designated Robert, if you can come up please, from the Mimosa, to be our representative, the Mbna's representatives. He attended the meeting. He attended the meeting recently, I believe it was on April 18th. And Robert, if you could sum up, and I believe Clive, you were also there, thank you so much for attending as an Mbna member. If you could just sum up what I know that they're working on different phases, so folks have questions on that, they'll ask you. But if you could sum up what the most pressing issue is for Mid-Beach with regards to the safety and the beach walk that I thought was very important for the members to hear from you, because I'm not sure if I'm communicating it correctly.
Well, basically, you have 4 tranches of the work that's going to be done, and from those 4 tranches, the first tranche that's
Bring it a little closer just so we can
the first
record.
tranche that's going to be worked on, 67%.
Your microphone.
67% of the work in the GO bond is going to be done in the first tranche, as it was explained. There are 57 projects altogether, and bottom line is that there is a lot of work that's going to be done in Mid-Beach. Mid-Beach being from Alton Road over to the Atlantic, from the bay over to the Atlantic Ocean.
A lot of work?
There is going to be a substantial
Somewhat
amount of
substantial.
work, but on our strip of Collins Avenue, and for our association, the impact is so minute, comparatively speaking, and I will explain that. Basically, we are very concerned about the security on the new beach walk that was just built. As was explained to us at that meeting, they are only allowing for cameras on the beach walk from 5th to 23rd Street. Nothing from 23rd Street to 63rd or to 85th. We are not getting anything.
So the cameras, for example, was something that we were in support of, thinking that it was something that would be beach-wide. Or when they said cameras for the beach walk, the Mbna said we are huge supporters of the beach walk, want it to be the greatest asset that we have. It's our backyard. We'd love to see this. Well, we come to find out, in the police in phase 1, if I'm understanding correctly, the cameras are only being allocated from 5th to 23rd. So we had asked Officer Hazy and the police department in an email communication to provide some data on the crime, on what, maybe it's perceived, maybe we're perceiving that it's dangerous between 24th and 63rd. And maybe that's not the case or that hasn't been documented, but again, there hasn't been a beach walk. It's just being developed now. So we're not sure, the 24th to 46th, there should be data at least for that strip, but we're just not understanding if it's perceived or why this decision was made.
If I might interrupt, when I questioned the chair of the committee, it was explained to us in no uncertain terms, hey, we went through X amount of projects, we parted down from as many as it was down to 57, and this is what's left. That's it. There is no money budgeted for this. Now, the city is saving money up front when they went to sell the bonds. It was a $28 million savings that was recouped on the price of those bonds. So it would be, maybe there's a way of getting some money out of that. I don't know. I don't know the procedure, but hey, we are saving money. We have saved some money. Maybe we could get some money out of that for the security and the safety that we need over here. Also,
anything else that you
yes, sidewalks. Sidewalk work that's going to be done is from 23rd Street to 41st. They're happening from July 19th, July of 2019 all the way to March 2020.
So it stops on what street? 41st?
23rd to 41st. We're going to see
Along
street
Collins?
paving along Collins Avenue. Street paving and street improvements. That's the only thing.
Street improvement, but street pavings and improvements are not, I thought we couldn't do sidewalks because
separate items.
Right, okay, wait a second. I thought FDOT, and Mr. Coley, I'm going to point to you just so maybe you can help me out. I thought FDOT maintains the sidewalks in Mid-Beach, and that's why they could not be included in the GO bond. So is this funding from 24th to 41st for street improvements such as resurfacing? And I mean, we're going to get it would be great to get crosswalks from 33rd to 4th. So, you know, those 7 blocks where there's no crosswalks and you're just like driving like going around everybody because they try to cross the street.
We do have a substantial amount of funding that's dedicated to pavement sidewalks. However, none of that will be spent on FDOT right-of-way itself or county right-of-way.
So 0 will be for this district?
No, there are a lot of roads in this district that are city roads. They're not.
We only have Collins and Indian Creek. Oh, we have the side roads between Indian Creek and Collins? So like on 33rd?
And you have the roads from here all the way over to Alton.
Oh, wait, no, so our district is 24th to 63rd, all condominiums and hotels.
Okay, well,
Yes, and not.
Mid Beach by the Geo bond is defined water to water, and
Right.
so, when it was divided out, water to water.
Are our
it-
taxes divided that way too? Like water?
I can't speak to that. I can tell you that the Mid Beach project, anything considered in the area is from water to water, called Mid Beach, North Beach, South Beach.
Right. So just so so we're not getting any sidewalks, because that was what we were told at the beginning up front, because they're FDOT, correct? So there's like where Freehand is, and some of the hotels, like across the street from the Addition, there's a few side streets in between there, between Collins and Eden Rock, Indian Creek. Those are municipal
If
streets?
those are municipal, then
Then
they're in
those
our
might,
plan.
be.
They would be, if they're municipal, they're in our plan.
Okay, so we have a few, we can maybe calculate how many of those. And then, I think that's it. And then Robert, any other comment on the Geo bond that we should know about?
I just intend on going there, and hopefully Clive will attend along with me, and we're just gonna keep on top of
Thank
him
you.
and see what's going on. We are getting the short end of the stick.
Wait, can you say that again?
We are getting the short end of the stick.
We say that every meeting. It's becoming a broken record.
That should be our model.
So commissioners, and I know you guys didn't want to come to this meeting and be asked this. What are we, I mean, is that it? I mean, I kind of feel like, we set ourselves up. Is this it? Or, there's always a possibility, there's always hope. How about the savings? Is there any way that any of that is going to be reconsidered for cameras, for example, from 24th to 63rd, since the cameras end at 23rd? So we have no cameras for Beach Walk, or funding allocated for cameras on Beach Walk from 23rd to 63rd.
No, I'll say a couple things. First,
Come on up, Mark.
yeah.
Commissioners,
That's okay. So we want to make sure that the Geo bond is good for the entire community, and obviously, we don't have time to go through all the 50-some odd projects and all the benefits that there are. With respect to the cameras, that's sort of the first I'm hearing it formally like this. We just got that significant savings. I don't know, but I will find out what the current thinking is and the plans on how that money's going to be used. I think the issue you brought up, Anna Marie, about data and are there crime issues, I think those areas were identified by MBPD, correct me if I'm wrong, as the areas where the need was greatest. So there is some funding there. We can, we'll obviously be trying to figure out where it goes. I want to make one other point and then happy to take any follow-ups. While 41st Street is not technically in your district, I do believe that's
absolutely.
It's a
not
big deal.
Well, 41st
And
on
there's-
Collins and Indian Creek is, but we are very passionate about connecting to our business district.
And there's a lot of goodness there.
Absolutely.
There is significant
Yes.
funding to reinvent 41st Street,
Yes.
lighting,
I think
streetscape,
it's, how many millions is it? 10, 15?
15.
Okay, then what
That's
was
right.
the total of the Geo bond?
439.
439. Okay.
So that's a big deal. I just want to make clear because we know that 41st Street is very important.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the reason why there is no crime yet is because obviously we don't have a beach walk. So those statistics aren't there because,
Fair enough.
unless we count the homeless that hang around in the seagrass, but hopefully we won't have big statistics, but we do have to keep that infrastructure in mind for the cameras for the near future.
Real quick, I agree with everything that's been said. One of my concerns with the Geo bond that I was vocal about was that I think our neighborhood got the least amount of money. I know we did.
Yes.
Mid Beach got the least amount of money, and we paid the most taxes. And in fact, things that were considered part of Mid Beach's portion of the Geo bond was really South Beach. They counted the improvements to Sunset Harbor as being part of Mid Beach, and I don't consider that to be part of Mid Beach. So I'm going to be advocating very strongly during the upcoming finance meetings and budget meetings that our community get the love and the attention that we deserve. So I think we will find the money to do the cameras. But remember the way that local government works, the squeaky wheel gets the oil? So you have to stay on top of all of the elected officials, those that come to our meetings and those that don't. We're all going to be voting and prioritizing our projects over the next few months. One of the things that we don't talk about that much and that aren't publicized, but that are some of the most important meetings are the special finance meetings leading up to the budget.
When are those?
They start now in late May, and they continue in June, And usually by about July, we've concluded most of our budgetary meetings because we have to set the final millage rate at the September meeting.
Okay.
So I'll email you those so you can share them with your membership, but it would be helpful if your organization could have somebody come to those meetings when we're discussing. Good. Because then that's how you make sure that these items get into the budget. Whether they come from the GEO bond, whether they come from the regular budget, you just want to make sure it gets done.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners.
Maybe Esteban you could attend those meetings for us?
Well, Esteban is taking Indian Creek right now, so we'll look to our membership and see who else. But I like that idea of delegation. Thank you. And 41st is so important. And I think that if I did, I don't know if I did my math correctly enough or well enough, it's less than 3% of the total. So if we take Sunset Harbor out, that leaves that, and then we have that golf, the park of the golf. I mean, we're talking, how much of the taxes, Commissioner McGuire, do you know how much taxes this district contribute? I know for hotels, it's 28%. I received that data from the city. But I'm waiting on the county's appraiser office to give us our tax data, updated one. For Mid-Beach, but do you know in proportion what this area contributes? Okay, we'll have to find out because I just think that that should be, in a way, just something a little closer to the percentage rather than being less than 3% or less than 5%. Just something.
Yeah, we have two parks, Par 9 and Polo.
Yes.
So they're spending all the money on two parks. But meanwhile, they just finished a park right next to the Eden Rock and Mimosa.
Oh.
It's the smallest park. Public park in the entire Miami Beach.
It is the poorest.
It took a year and a half to complete that park, and it is embarrassing. We just, Deb Lake isn't here, but she's allocated for that. And it just goes to show, you're building a park in Mid-Beach next to the two largest resorts, and you build this little tiny park with 3 play equipment, and it took you a year and a half to finish it. Really? Yet you go to 55th and there's a beautiful, beautiful park with a zip line. Every other park is just luscious and it's got landscaping, it's got huge sails, and we were cheated out of this one, so we are a little disturbed about that as well. So let's keep that in mind because I know it's not on the agenda, but we are fighting for it, by the way.
On our next meeting. So June 12th, we do have Representative Rico coming talking about the legislation, and also I believe his name is Mr. John Rebar. Is that correct? The Director of Parks? Yeah. Somebody help me out? Thank you. So Mr. John Rebar has agreed to come on June 12th. We are moving our meeting from June 5th, the first Wednesday of every month, because the first Wednesday in June is a commission meeting. So we do not meet when there's a commission meeting, we push it up 1 week. In April, we met 2 weeks ago. That's why this group's a little smaller today. We met 2 weeks ago because our guest speaker, Mayor Gelber, was, and I'm going to say this probably, sitting Shiva. His father had passed away, so we had moved the meeting to the following week. The following week was commission, and that's why it was on the 17th. But on the June 12th meeting, we will be talking about our parks. That's one of Mid-Beach MBNA's platforms and big concern is just to ensure that not only our voice is heard, but that we are being represented in these processes and in all our public assets. So our MBNA member, Esteban Borselli, had attended the Sustainability Committee. Thank you, Commissioner Samuelin, for encouraging us to be there, to be able to hear about Indian Creek. And I want to give a personal update on that. I have been in close communication with the PIO office, officers from Miami Beach, and the person that they have designated is now on our website. All her contact information is there, so if you go to midbeach.org and you click on projects, then you click on Indian Creek, you will see the update from the city, and you will see the contact. So if you have questions, as we did when we looked at the update, please contact that person. We still welcome all of your comments, all of your phone calls, text messages, WhatsApp messages, and social media messages, and we do communicate those concerns, and we try to do that as best way we can in a collective manner, but it's always great for the city and for the PIOs to listen to different voices and to listen to different points of view. So we encourage you to also reach out to them directly. Ms. Liz Bernstein, that is here, Lynn Bernstein, that is here with us today, is also one of our points of contact. So the person on our website is Heather, but Liz is also works with Heather, and we will be happy to take any comments back. The gentleman standing behind is Mr. John Carlo, and I don't remember your last name. Peña. Mr. Giancarlo Peña with the Department of Public Works, and the man of the hour, and the guy where the buck stops for me, and if it passes him, it goes to the other side, is Mr. Roy. So if you could come up and give us an update, please. We can clap for him, guys. Before he begins, though, I'd like to apologize and clarify. If your name is not on the agenda, you will not be speaking at our meetings. It'll be unlikely. So if at the last meeting we only had elections at an annual meeting and Mayor Gelber, we did not, that's why transportation wasn't here, that's why the other departments weren't here. So we wouldn't need our staff. So I had heard Mr. Coley say at the last commission meeting that he came and he had all these people and all we wanted to talk about was speed and all these questions to the mayor, and that's because that's what was on the agenda. It wasn't because we wanted to ignore the Department of Public Works. We love the Department of Public Works, and more so when the Indian Creek project will be done. So hopefully we'll have a good update today. Thank you. Yes. And Esteban, I'd like for you to ask your questions.
Thank you, Emery. You did hear Giancarlo Peña. He is a civil engineer for the city of Miami Beach, one of our greatest talents. So I'm happy he's here with me tonight. And she introduced to you Lynn, who is a public information officer who works with Heather. And so we want to make sure everyone knows all of us, so you can reach us if you need to. I'm really excited to be here tonight. We did come 2 weeks ago. We were under the impression that we were expected to come give a presentation 2 weeks ago. We didn't, but we were happy to be here anyway. So tonight, what I can share with you is some really good news, and that is on the Indian Creek project. We began yesterday with some improvements that were largely the result of the activism of the Mid-Beach community. And so I have a map here that I can show you. We'll have to turn it around for your board members to see. This is a simple map of the improvements. We sent out some information in writing, but we thought maybe a graphic would be easier. If you see where my right hand is, where the purple coloring is, what this purple is to indicate to you is where the bus stop is going to be moved from. It is going to be moved from where you see my finger to the left of the page, which is south.
So to right here to the edge?
Yes, it's going to be moved in this area, the bus stop will.
Yes.
The reason why we're moving the bus stop.
So it's at 29th, just before 29th Street now, and it will be moved between 29th and 28th.
Perfect. That's exactly
Now,
yes.
the importance of that move is of course, your activism, our transportation department studied what they believed was the biggest bottleneck to traffic there. And of course, they believed it was the buses, as had been advocated to them. And when the buses stop, then the cars are backed up behind them. There's a lot of bus activity there. So the thought was, if we could move the bus stop a little bit south, then that would put us in an area that we can open up another lane of traffic.
Right here?
Perfect. That's exactly what.
And I think that's exactly what you asked when I met with you and Commissioner Higgins. We walked that several months ago.
Yeah, when was that, what date?
November 29th at 4 p.m.
That's exactly. So how we got to this point, since you bring that up, is we met with your representatives and we walked this area. Commissioner Higgins was a giant help for us too. We walked the area, we received the request. Then Giancarlo, as the city civil engineer, then had to design this request, and it had to go to our engineer of record and then ultimately to DOT to finally get these things approved, and then we could procure them. So on to the improvements. You see the bus movement, then the green is the portion that we will have a second lane opened up traveling southbound.
Yay.
So all of this green,
So from 29th
to
all the way to
24th,
24th.
there'll be a second lane. It is our belief that with the bus move, when the bus stops, the extra lane will be open where cars can move around the bus and keep the traffic flowing and have less of a bottleneck. It will not be a total cure to all of the traffic ails, but we do believe it will be a big improvement. So then when we move here to the blue, this is the section of sidewalk that is currently closed. It's closed because there is no authorized place for pedestrians to cross.
There's a piece of sidewalk missing, no?
No, I didn't think it was.
There's a piece
There's
that...
no crosswalk right now.
There's no
But
crosswalk.
in the sidewalk, there's like an empty portion, like the part that you come around and it's,
When you get to this microphone.
right, people are walking through this barricade, which I noticed you put double barricade now.
We're trying that. We're trying to limit the access so people don't keep walking and getting into the streets. So
But the ultimate result is, where you see blue,
Yeah,
this will be reopened.
okay.
A temporary pedestrian crossing, or
Oh,
interim
wonderful.
crossing, will be installed here, so that allows all this to be open. And then
And what
the,
about the barricades?
then the next improvement is here, where you see the yellow lines. All of this will be reconfigured and repaved, where we can have left turns in and out.
Let me show this to George, because I know George and his building at Riviera have been very concerned about this. So here, right here, this will all be reopened, and then this will, the turning lanes will also be and then a temporary crosswalk at this point. And it's temporary because once the project is finished in 2 years, it will be finalized, or temporary? Okay.
It's
So these are
interim.
basically, okay, those are great because we.
Contractor started yesterday.
Yes.
They mobilized yesterday. They have told us they will be 100% complete with all of these things that I'm sharing with you within 60 days. So sometime in June, they will move out, and this will be your end result.
Well, today's May 1st, so July 1st, before 4th of
No,
July?
we got May and June. Yeah, they're saying by the end of June.
By the end of June.
So
Okay.
what is the lane closure on Collins Avenue? What was that that I read?
What you noticed is there is an impact to Collins Avenue while they do the paving work for those left turn in and out. So for these 60 days, there are going to be intermittent changes to one lane on that Collins Avenue going on.
As they're working on the
Just
project.
a 60 days.
Yeah, just for this
And then-
period of time to make these
And
improvements.
then I'm going to, because of the Sustainability Committee, Mr. Esteban Borges brought back a very important question that I know we've already shared with you, but if you could.
Yes, a couple of days ago, I see the drawing approved to do this work. It's very good news. Because already they started and everything is going to be okay. But the problem is, we have right now a nightmare traffic in Indian Creek from 34 to 24. And this drawing and this work is only working from 29 to 24. Still, we're going to have one line from 34 to 29. That means this is not the solution. Because still we have 5 blocks with one line. That means this is money that we spend to partial solution of the problem. I remember I mentioned the only way to have 2 lines to the south is using one line from Collins Avenue, change the Collins Avenue have 3 lines in this area, and then this is going to be the solution, cheaper and easy to do that. Right now, we are in with the same problem. We have one line from 34 to 29. That means it's no solution for us. I live in 34. I saw every single minute the people there, and the line is also to 45. If you don't have 2 lines, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. That's just my opinion.
It's going to alleviate, but it will, right. So the mitigation of the barricade is significant. The mitigation on the barricade, I believe, is significant. The crosswalk is significant.
And the
moving
bus
of
stop is
significant.
huge.
Opening the lane is also relatively significant, but where we, and I know that, Jean-Claude, you said, Mr. Coley mentioned that you did an analysis and showed where the bottleneck was and because of the buses. So even if the buses get moved half a block up, you're still going to, we think, have that congestion move back all the way to 34th. So what's your plan for 34th up to 29th?
Well, first of all, thank you for your comments, sir. The ultimate solution is get this project finished. There are no temporary or interim measures that are going to achieve a condition we want.
I think there might be. No?
We need 2 lanes open all the way and 2 lanes open all the way. It is our belief through discussions with FDOT, they would not even consider doing multiple way traffic on pilots there as you suggest. The goal is do as many interim measures as we can to reduce the stress on the community and get the job finished and get in there and finished, and that's the goal.
But it's a 2-year project, and we were told it was 2-year project 2 years ago. And so, and I think it got bidded, and then it got pulled, and then it got rebid. So and I think Commissioner Higgins quoting her, we should never look at anything as temporary on this road. So you're doing what you're doing now to set the groundwork for permanent, but how can we have an alleviation between 34th to 29th? There's other communities that are right by the water. I don't know if maybe Coconut Grove is higher, but they do road work. They put the planks down over pipes, and they allow the cars to go over it. What are we doing? What interim steps are we taking to mitigate the negative impact that we'll have from 34th to 20th? And how can we get this before the high season, before Art Basel? Addition Hotel has been a member. They were a board member before. They have fought this. Fountain Blue was a board member before, and they have advocated. And I'm sad not to see somebody here from the Addition today, but they started this advocacy for Mbna because they have faced real delays, and very much the residents have been unpleased with their purchases and with being at the Addition because of the Indian Creek project. So how can we go back to our members? What can we do for like Esteban and others that live between 34th and 29th? What are your thoughts?
Well, what our intention is at this point is within 2 weeks, we anticipate to have a solicitation on the street to hire a contractor. That's a 45-day solicitation time, and then we will open bids. We have spent a substantial effort in the last few weeks or last couple of months redefining the job, because as you know, the contracts came in over bid and were rejected, and we had to start over. The job's been redefined. We've been meeting with individual contractors.
In the redefining, was there any changes in the scope?
Well, what there were, according to some contractors, didn't bid our job. And I would like to explain the importance of that. Some of the contractors that didn't bid our job said there was for 2 reasons. One reason was the bids were opening very near Thanksgiving, and the job was very complex for bidding purposes, figuring everything out. They didn't have all of their staffs, and the job was complex enough, they decided not to bid the job. So they advised us that opening bids near Thanksgiving caused them not to bid the job. And part of that is there were a lot of unknowns. There were a lot of harmonization issues. There's still properties that had not signed harmonization agreements along the way, so therefore the contractors viewed that as an unknown and a risk, and either didn't want to bid the job, or they added a lot of money to the job to those that did bid it. We went back to FDOT and our engineers of record and further refined those specifications. So the harmonization is better known. There are less unknowns. We've been able to get more properties to officially agree with what they will have along the way. And we believe what that does is allows our contractors to bid the job with less unknowns, i.e. less risk, and will get us more competitive pricing and possibly more bidders in the job. So right now, our goal is...
So in 2 weeks, we're hoping that this process reopens and you'll have more bids. In those 2 weeks when it goes open, is there anything in there that requires them to take into account the negative impacts, economic impacts that it's having on our hotels and our residents that are trying to sell their properties or trying to kind of move, or the negative impacts it might be having on the quality of life, the noise, the folks that have had to deal with generators and pumps and the noise and the traffic and the stress? I mean, anything in this new scope that deals with the human factor of this project?
No, the scope is strictly managing the stormwater, the flooding conditions, and building the road. And that's what the scope is, and of course, managing the traffic.
Does the city ever take those elements into account, especially on projects like this that have been a little messy and kind of, patchwork? And
the city always takes that into account, except this particular project was done under an emergency authorization.
Okay.
There was never a pre-planning period. There was never all of these things you're speaking of. It was recognized when we were standing in knee-deep water on Indian Creek Road. Representatives from Miami Beach went to Tallahassee. They made a deal and started work, and that was it.
Okay.
So all of the things you're speaking of, as important as they are, simply weren't considered part of an emergency procurement.
Right, but now we're years ahead, and the emergency has shifted. Commissioner Samlin, anything that the city's process can do or You know, is there something, any kind of an assessment? I'm just worried, we have 2 more years, you're going out to bid, this is like the only moment we can do this. Once your project starts, we kind of lose that opportunity a little bit.
Our specifications are now set and agreed to between the city and Florida Department of Transportation.
Great.
If we try to change
Oh, no,
anything,
we wouldn't change it, we're saying
we would be
augment.
into a huge
We're
delay.
saying augment, from a city's perspective, well, my question is augment, from a city standpoint, of how do we put that human factor, or maybe it's through your PIO, I don't know, there's something with our hotels, we just get a lot of calls from folks in that area, and it is stressful to even listen to them. You know, you can only imagine having to live through it. I don't live there, so it's hard for me to empathize, but I hear it from them, and it's hard for me to represent them. So what do you think for 34th to 29th? You've talked about the process. Is there anything specific that we can do to open those 2 rooms?
We don't have anything specific planned.
You know, one thing you're not talking about too is we had mentioned is the safety issue. There's a huge safety issue, and those lanes are locked. If there is an emergency and ambulance has to go down there, or if there's a fire, there's no way they can get down there in a reasonable amount of time. What about safety for human beings?
What I can share with you on that, because it's a FDOT road, we were required to submit to FDOT a traffic maintenance plan by an individual that's qualified by DOT to do that, and then we're obligated to follow it. And that's what we're doing now. The plan that you have there now is a DOT-approved plan, and that's part of the challenge when Anne Marie and your other folks joined us and wanted to make changes. We have to go back and spend months going through proposing all of these changes and have them approved to DOT standards, which is presumed to be all about
So
safety.
we've had, Esteban's called me with videos of ambulances stuck and fire trucks stuck on Indian Creek. The police, or the fire departments haven't mentioned this?
And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying the design that's there is a design that FDOT says meets their standard for safety, and we don't have the option as a city to go out and make a change without going through the process.
It does when the adjacent land is not water. When you have water, you know, on both sides, it's very difficult to navigate around that.
Usually the traffic, when that happens, they're ready to call the cops.
Yeah, but
It's
they
like
get
they're
stuck.
ready to
Look,
call
have
the-
you ever been on that? Have you ever been on that congestion? You're stuck for minutes. If I'm having a heart attack in the back of that ambulance, I don't want to wait minutes. Or if I'm waiting at home and I'm about to deliver a baby, I don't want to wait minutes. I want the ambulance there a few minutes before.
Yeah.
No?
I just want to mention.
Because the video they sent me was a few minutes long before the ambulance was able to get through. So that it does happen. And we have people taking videos from their balconies and sending them to us. It's happening. So is there, based on that notion, is there anything, based on Melinda's comment, is there anything we can do from 34th to 28th? You have 2 months before they finish 29th to 25th. We have this kind of planning takes months to go through. Anything we can go
I
back
am
and do?
happy to reach out to the engineer director, have that conversation and see if they'll make some recommendations.
If we can
I don't want to
pull those
overcommit
videos.
and promise something that I'm afraid we may not be able to do.
Right. But you can. But you
We're
can-
happy to ask.
But you could ask. Okay, thank you.
We're happy to
Sorry. Matt.
Question. Roy, excuse me, I agree with you that moving the bus stop is a great idea, and it will decrease the amount of congestion. I live in the area, walk and run in that area. I also noticed that light, that traffic light on 29th Street, is also a source of just backing traffic tremendously. Any thought about making that light either a little bit longer, or, for example, for emergency vehicles, so that, you know, they detect? I think that there's some technology where they detect an oncoming vehicle and turns green right away to let all the traffic pass.
Be happy to report back on that. Joe Ziel, who is our transportation expert for the city, is normally here with us tonight. He didn't think that was coming up, and that's in his space of expertise. And I don't want to speak for him, so what I'll share with you is I will talk to him first thing tomorrow morning and ask him, can he do it?
So City of Miami Beach, I don't know if they still have it, but they used to have a contract with Kinley and Horn, who sits in the county and works on our lights and works on the timing of our lights. So Manny, what is a light exactly? What's the intersection? Because we can send that to you.
So it's
29th.
29.
It's a temporary light, remember over there?
Oh, yes, it's because, yeah, it's a temporary, so I know there's some limitation to the
But
temporary
sometimes
lights.
it's red
You
for
can
no
program
reason.
it, but I'm not sure, but you can program it and do it the time.
You can program it, but I think the
time-
sensors, we're a little bit more limited on the technology and sensors because.
No, but what he's saying is when there's an emergency vehicle, if the emergency vehicle can trigger that light to turn green, and there isn't a way of doing that,
But it's a
absolutely.
temporary light, so
But
it
because
probably
it's a
wouldn't.
temporary, it is, but because it's
Okay,
temporary.
I think
We'll
it's
check.
red way too long, because the street is tiny, it's only one lane to cross. Maybe we can do it where even a temporary light that if you're gonna cross the
We
little
do,
street.
we do have a pedestrian crossing.
Right,
And
that's all you
Lynn's making
need.
notes for us, so she'll have our list of action
That's all
items
you
in the
really
morning.
need, because it should be green most of the time.
We're happy to do that.
So the requests were the light,
Make it as green
the
as long as
timing,
possible.
such as transportation or county or however we work that. And then the other one was opening that second lane and figuring out what we need to do to build a case or think about how we will do that so that we can continue to flow. The last item for you, sir, today is, I'm sorry, are there any other questions on this part of Indian Creek? Yes.
I just want to make a very quick comment. We absolutely feel your pain and frustration here. I mean, honestly, I get a little frustrated just watching part of it. And so we very much appreciate it. We realize that's not a perfect solution. It's probably better than where we were. I think those steps are going to be helpful. So we tried to take some action there. We got to get this job done. Know that we hear the circumstances. We're open. We will do the follow-up. We will be present here. We will get monthly updates at our sustainability committee. We're always here to try and do the best we can in a not very pleasant situation. The challenge here we have is it's really not completely the city. In partnership with FDOT, we have to sort of go fight that good fight. But I just want to tell you, we absolutely hear the concerns, and your feedback's fair.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Any other questions? Any other comments? Okay, so the last one, landscaping. So Flamingo, is it Flamingo Park, the association that's on the Flamingo Drive? Flamingo Drive, but are they Flamingo Drive Homeowners Association? Lynn, do you know that? Is it Flamingo Drive Homeowners?
Yes, Flamingo Drive.
Okay, so we heard them speak. We had asked them the transportation, parking, pedestrian, bicycle facilities meeting, I don't know if that's the right acronym, but the transportation basically committee had asked to have an update. So I know MBNA was very caught off guard, and the script we had actually for the day of the commission meeting that we showed up was not read. And we had to do it off the cuff, which is probably why it was so emotionally charged. Because we weren't expecting an update on that project. We saw Flamingo Drive's Homeowners Association speak up, and we felt that we also needed to share about that project. We provided extensive feedback in January at the public meeting, as well as we spoke about it here, even though we did not have representation from the city at our January meeting, and then we had them as a special presentation at our February meeting. We're now in May, and we haven't heard how any of that feedback, if it was considered, if it wasn't considered, where they are in the project. By late March, we hadn't gotten any updates from the consultants, so we were just wondering if you would be able to answer those questions or give us a little bit of a sense of timeline. And I know that there might not be as much of an urgency because until the roadway is done, the landscaping won't happen anyway. Is that correct?
Some of it can, but
Okay.
yes, it phases together.
So if you could share with us a little bit about what that process looks like now. Has the feedback been considered? And what is the new plans for that?
It has a different name now, they changed the name.
Yeah, which was insulting.
Well,
But I
there
think
was
we
a
are sure.
So what's the new
confusion if
name?
you call it a
Greenway.
a greenway, because some people consider that nomenclature a painted green lane on the road, not landscaping, and so different people in the city were thinking it was
Well,
a different.
Greenway is maximizing the asset of the land that we have available in front of our properties. Landscaping is reducing the scope and limiting it to not maximize. Like, that's the way we interpret it.
So let me answer your question, and hopefully you won't feel that.
Okay, thank you.
When we met with you about the project, and of course we had our landscape designers, consultants here, and what seemed to be our takeaway from this group was you had a very strong desire to have a shared use continuous path along this corridor that would go into space between the road and the water, whether you call it a greenway or landscaping project or whatever, that space. So we did take exactly your request and we sent them to our engineer record for the project, and we asked them, how could this be placed in here? They identified a minimum of 6 locations in the corridor that there is not sufficient width for shared use path. And so, based on that determination, we were recently given the position of our engineer of record that we could not do a shared use path continuous through that. So we haven't identified on the map the areas that there can't be a shared continuous path. We took that information and shared that information with our landscape design consultant, their landscape architects, and asked them to then re-engage the design and give us their ideas based on the fact that there are areas there cannot be a shared use path for safety concerns because they're just simply not enough width.
That actually is an old idea and an old suggestion. We have updated that suggestion several times in the last few months because, and as Alicia mentioned earlier in today's meeting, she does not want
okay, good. We can do exactly what you want.
So it's very easy now. Look at how simple it is.
Can we quote him on that? Can you say that again?
Zoom in. Zooming in.
Just tell them how simple it is to bring back the bike lane.
Okay, so there is a current bike lane on Collins Avenue that before I had 3 children and was married about 15 years ago, and I used to bike a lot more. My husband and I used to go down Collins Avenue to get to the library or to go down kind of the Bass Museum area, and we would go down Collins as crazy as that might seem to some folks. Now that we have children, we take Flamingo Drive. But back then, we used to do that because there was a bike lane, and there is a bike lane still there. And in the master plan, it talks about that bike lane and augmenting that facility. And so what we wanted to see was take the 3 feet that are already designated. You have beautiful pedestrian facilities on the other side of your landscaping where you have the sidewalks, you have ADA, those curb extensions look great. Just lift up those 3 feet from the bike lane, add it to your project. So add the footage of that bike lane that's already there, that's already been kind of sanctioned by the city. And it's subpar, I understand that, it's only about 3 or 4 feet. But you elevate that, now you have a dedicated bike lane, a protected bike lane, and in that area in Indian Creek, you really do need to be protected when you're on your cycle, when you're bicycling. You elevate that, and then you have the landscaping that Flamingo Drive was promised, the mangroves that they were promised. They get what they want, and we get what we want. And for the commuters, for those that work at hotels, those that go to the business district on 41st, those that are commuting, they're not going to go down to the beach walk 2 blocks down and bike on the beach walk. They're going to bike on the street. They're going to get there the fastest way possible. And so being able to provide them a safe facility was our latest recommendation. It was the recommendation that we mentioned 2 weeks ago. 2 months. Yes, 2 months ago. Well, it started 2 months ago, but also at the commission meeting and also at the last meeting and also at the March meeting, we've said this a few times already. So that was the idea we brought back because we did hear about those pinch points where there wasn't enough for both, and we said, well, there's a pedestrian facility on the other side, so if we have to choose one or the other, we should choose something that makes sense. What we don't want, and we've said this very clearly, are pocket parks facing a creek when we have the beach 2 blocks away. Because a pocket park, without doing a full thoroughfare through that area, is going to encourage illicit behavior and encourage those that are experiencing homelessness to find refuge. And so we do not want that there. We don't think that the homes want that. We don't think that the condominiums want that from what we've spoken to and heard from all the neighbors. So that was one aspect that was proposed in the original design that we said we do not want. And then we modified our position based on what the engineer of record came back and told us.
So would it be, let me make sure I understood. Because it can't be a shared use continuous path, correct. You don't want any path? You want that just to be landscaped?
No. The path is on right now on the road. We would take that path on the road and we would elevate it to the level of the landscaping and add a couple feet based on your project that you do have a few feet all the way through. So you have 2 feet, right, all the way through.
Right now, you would be requesting a redesign of the road that would be an extensive delay. What's going to bid now does not do that. What's going to bid has a bike lane. It has a dedicated bike lane.
Where's the bike lane? Next to the street, on the side of the street. Yes. And it's going to be painted green like everything, like what we're trying to do in the city, throughout the city.
That could be coordinated to transportation.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, it's not raising it. It's not going to raise, it's going to be the same level as the street.
4 months ago, no, wait, do my math for me. March, April. So 3 months ago, when Mr. Jose Gonzalez was at this meeting, he shared with the consultants from the landscaping this idea. They went back and supposedly they spoke about it. They came back and told us that this was going to be reconsidered. So it went back out to, I guess when it went back out to rebid, it wasn't able to be modified?
Our engineer of record has the road section approved by DOT, which includes the width of the road, the footprint of the road, and what's included in it. To change that footprint, because the landscaping project or the greenway project is outside of this DOT project. So then for us to want to change that road section creates a whole new design and starts everything.
Let me understand. So the part from west of the road, of the FDOT road, west, which is included, let's call it landscaped area. Okay. In your current design that's already approved, because we can't go back and start changing everything, because then we will extend it another 2 years. What, is there a walking path?
Now, the portion,
walking, not bicycle, we separate them, right?
The portion west of the roadway is the city landscaping project that's under design.
What does it have?
And it's under design. We don't have those answers. That's the
Okay, so you're asking us if we want, let me get it clear, if we want west of the road to have a walking path, or like Flamingo wants, just leave it green. That's your question. What do we want? And I'm on the fence on that one. But for sure, the bicycle will be as it is currently, except it will be painted green and separated. But what you can't do is what Anna Marie was saying, to raise it, because then that would change the scope.
I would not be able to raise it without asking the engineer to redesign the road section.
So for now, we're getting it flat, but green and separate.
There's no point in having two facilities.
Right now it's 4 feet, it'll be 6 feet. So we're increasing the width of
the width of the bike lane as well.
6 feet.
6 feet. So is it going to be north and south?
Only one way.
Only, oh, it is a one-way road. That's right, that's right. It's a one-way.
But it doesn't make
physical separation.
Just space. Just
space and can we make that line solid or bigger?
Okay, it'll be a solid line.
A bit wider than the 4-inch, you know, something really so the bicycles feel safe there. Now
the minimum is 4 feet.
No, I'm saying the separation
right now it's 3
between
feet, so then the lanes are going to be
wider.
No, right now the bike on that is 3 feet.
It's very narrow, actually.
It's very narrow.
It is.
It's very scary. So it's like the gutter. It's like biking on the gutter.
Right. So they're going to widen that and put a big separator between the vehicles and the bike lane, a wider white lane than the green.
We'll follow the standards.
We can do that.
Okay, that's
easy.
That doesn't change.
Wait a second though, the problem is that does change, because we would never recommend having an on-road bike facility next to a dedicated bike facility. Ideally, it would have been raised.
Which is the
you would maximize, and this was the issue of including each of those projects and not thinking and not coordinating within the departments and landscaping within public works, not coordinating the two projects and maximize that asset. So that's, you know, that to me is just so disappointing to hear that wasn't thought of, and that, you know, when it's in the master plan, to already have it there, why not, if you're going to do the landscaping, why not have elevated? I mean, just having, we don't have any dedicated, we don't have separated bike lanes in the city.
I mean, it would have been ideal to have the curb, then the bike lane, then the garden. That would have been ideal.
Exactly.
May I respond?
That's not.
When we started this project, it was only the roadway. We didn't own those properties that now we're taking doing an agreement. So
we've gone back to the engineer record several times.
Yes, but like when we start, we still don't own some of the properties. We're still trying to get those properties because the idea is to have a continuous greenway or an area that we could use. But when we started the project back in 2016, we didn't have this. We've been talking to the owners and getting the quick claim deeds on the easement so they could donate it so we can use it. So it's been, we're trying to
just so that our members have an understanding, if you went back to the engineer record, what would that timeline look like?
I believe if you asked for a change, you would be talking minimum 1 year. But he would have to redesign it, resubmit it to FDOT, go through its comments period.
So the question is, let's make a decision. The question is, do we want or do we not want a sidewalk, let's call it, or a walking path in the landscaping, which could potentially entice cyclists? I say, I don't want to be on the road. I'd rather be on the sidewalk.
You're going to lose you're going to really not maximize your, it's going to.
If we do, we'll save a ton of money if we don't put that concrete sidewalk, right? But is it what we want? People on the sidewalk can go on the side. I mean, you live there. Manny, what do you think? You think it's better to put one or not put one?
So, Roy, I understand in clear. You said that there are 6 pinch areas where you're not able
Too narrow.
to have a continuous bike path.
No,
Is that what you said?
shared youth path. Shared use path.
Shared use.
Shared use path, which takes a little more width than a bike path where you can have walkers and bikes.
We don't want
So
shared.
If you identify those areas, is it possible, you know, on the east side of the street, there's parking, public parking. In those pinch areas, can you actually, you know, get rid of the parking to widen the street so that you would be able to accommodate the bike?
That's a good point.
I think that's a design change.
But that would be a design.
I think would be.
That would have been a right thing to
That
do.
would
Too late.
satisfy, you know, your need for the
Yeah, that's
46
right.
feet.
It would. However, I'll point out to you, anytime we touch one parking space on the east side of the road, there is a
residents.
tremendous amount of upset about that because they still struggle for parking every day. And if we say we're taking one parking place out,
I
they bring home
understand,
their
but there's a
bike.
whole other issue of density and, you know, permitting and all of that.
So taking parking is more difficult to do than sometimes we imagine.
Yeah.
If we say we want to eliminate
But I
parking.
mean, the two wrongs don't make a right. I mean, you know, if you're ready-made, let's try not to make a mistake with the spike path. The other thing is, elevating that to me just makes no sense whatsoever. So a bike rider is unsafe to be on an elevated platform. You would have to create some sort of a shield so that you don't, you know, go off for that and fall and end up on the street and get run over by a car. So elevating it to me is a non-issue. It shouldn't happen.
Well, and currently, that's not the design. What you currently have is a typical FDOT design that you'll see on any state road with a green lane there.
Right, but I hear, you know, some ideas about elevating it, et cetera.
They did discuss that,
Okay, so
we have an idea.
if we save the city all this money, imagine the amount of hundreds of thousands of not doing a sidewalk on the green path. What do we do with it? So let's get it to mid-beach.
Okay,
Number one.
Let me take a moment.
Let's give the news.
Number two, if we recommend this, Flamingo would be thrilled because that's what they've been advocating for. Flamingo, so that's like they've been fighting for this big time, so they're gonna love us. Because I have a concern. Is there any way that we can make the bike, and I'm not a biker, I just want the bikers out of my way when I'm driving. Okay, I want to give them a safe place to ride, go as fast as you want, but
I'm gonna edit this video because she said 2 things today that I cannot edit.
So can we make it wider? We can't because
You've
the
got
curb.
6 feet.
Because that's it. 6 feet for the bike lane?
Yes.
That's good enough.
That's good. Now, I did want to mention, and I don't know if our police officers left, I want to give a plug for them. I can tell you, and just for you to know, when the GeoBond studies were going, the police department recommended cameras from one end to the other. The police department wanted them everywhere, they advocated for them, and
Yeah, that's what they told us, that's what we
We didn't get them, now we're gonna get them, right? With all this
Here's what
money.
the process was, when the GeoBond came out, we were asking staff to make recommendations. We were making public works recommendations, police are making theirs. When all of the recommendations were tallied, it was over $1 billion. So then the city commission took one cut at it and chopped off projects that they said, look, these are too aspirational wish lists, we're not gonna do them, it's too much money, and they chopped it to about $700 million. Then they appointed the committee and said, okay, we have $700 million worth of projects. We don't want to go to the bond market for $700 million. We want to go for 4. Get us $400 million worth of projects. And they went through.
And that committee had no one from Mid-Beach represented. Yep, I'm positive because the
They claimed
mayor.
they did, but I was sitting there.
And they stopped on 23rd Street with the cameras.
Not from our district.
Exactly,
Your
or
district.
Not from
Mid-Beach
24th to 63rd.
Because the chairman
coincidentally.
claims she's from Mid-Beach.
Yes, but she's in that residential area across the street. But multi-use, living in multi-family housing have different issues, and we have different needs.
I just
in
wanted
these
you to know your
areas.
police department didn't speak up.
Side us?
They did speak up. They wanted it.
Okay.
They advocated when the project went
So
from
who sold us
700
short?
million.
Was it
So,
Public
right,
Works?
who do we blame?
No.
Yeah, we gotta-
The blame was our commission gave them a direction to go from 700 million to 400 million, and they went
I mean,
through.
with a committee that was not equitably distributed by all taxpayers and all neighborhoods were
They
not
spent
represented on that
many,
committee.
many hours
I know.
painfully going through
I
projects,
know, but
and it
it's
got
different when
passed.
it's your backyard.
Understood. I will say that this.
Okay, so let's wrap up.
Let's-
We're gonna wrap up the landscaping item and we're gonna call it adjourned. But for landscaping, I know this, you said it was roadway, we couldn't move it. Let's say we leave the roadway the way it is, okay? Instead of spending the money on the path, we go ahead, we take your curb and we extend the curb. I know this would have to go to FDOT, right? After the project's done. But you have 2 years to get that project done. So after those 2 years, you would have already had this approved or not.
But if we're
But
getting
if you
6
extend
feet.
it, no, it's not 6 feet.
Yes, the bike path is 6 feet.
On the road?
Yes, yes.
It's not above it.
No.
And so there's a protected portion of it? So it's protected? No,
It's not.
there's a designated bike path.
There is a designation.
Designated.
6 feet designation, not
Designation.
protected.
We need, what we wanted was separation.
Is there any way maybe that we can put those horrible stanchions that everybody knocks down?
We are told we don't have sufficient space for it. I'm happy to appeal that decision because John Carlo requested that of the engineer record and they said you don't have the proper space for it.
6 feet and you don't have the
Six feet is
fast.
wide.
That's impressive, because that's not some roads with.
Use like, they need 2 feet and put it in the center, and then you let it 2 feet.
They usually put them on top of a divider.
No, inside is between the line you're talking about. So there's one that has less than 2 feet that we'll show you now.
But it is certainly something we
But
continue to
back to the-
advocate for because it doesn't change the design.
So do you,
Okay, so
do
we
you
can't
agree-
advocate for that.
Would you personally feel that it's better to just do landscaping on the west without a walkway, you as an engineer?
Well, I
and
know
how do
for
you
certain
feel?
there's a lot of perspectives. There are people that live on Indian Creek that would like to have access to the water. They would like to have a sidewalk where they can walk over to the water or walk their dog.
Who are those people?
How wide is, how wide?
Because we haven't heard that from anybody who lives in that area.
I just met with 25, 55.
Oh, great. So we should reach out to them.
And they do have,
Okay.
they are in another project close by.
25, 55, and they would like to access the water.
How wide is the sidewalk?
It's not even designed, that's still in
think so.
conceptual thinking.
Well, look, Robert, maybe we need to reach out to them.
This is it.
No, I think if we put it, bicycles are gonna go up there.
Where they put it?
25, 55, what's the name?
And then you have kids on that
Global
road.
Lantis is our member, so we'll go ahead and reach out to them again and make sure that we're representing, because what we've heard from that whole district is different. So we'll reach out to them.
And nothing we would like better than if
Just
everybody
green.
agrees.
Beautiful landscape.
Let us go back to our members, let's
Yeah.
listen to them again, let's survey them, we'll survey them the way we do with the papers.
I'm gonna go walk and look and.
So I'd like to make a motion on the table to,
This might be brought back at the June
to
15th.
be brought back at the June 12th meeting, and where we have
And
surveyed
then we'll give you a position.
survey our MBNA members. If you could provide this in written form, because your update on your one flyer sheet that the PA, that Heather had sent us, it doesn't have anything, any of this mentioned. So,
This is hot off the press.
hot off the press, that's the way we like it.
Are you trying to eliminate the walkway on the west
No,
side?
I'm trying to have a design that maximizes that assets and represents what the community wants. And I don't think I know that yet. So I'm not advocating for one way or the other. Yes.
Yes, David Gomez did
Something
come.
pretty for landscaping, like a nature walk.
We're
Have
talking about that too.
You all have considered that also, having a nature walk?
Rock or some kind of.
Rock. And it would be lower resources, and it would be prettier and more context sensitive with what.
And some of the Flamingo neighbors have been on record saying that they're not against that. If they thought it would be very.
And we're in close communication with them now, so we might have a joint meeting and have a little bit of more further discussion. Anyone here that would like to participate in those conversations, please let us know so that we can delegate out there. Anyone on this one?
Anybody?
I'm just kidding, we welcome you at any of our meetings. Thank you so much for being here tonight. So we have a quick update on the beach walk. They are now at 85% completion from 47th all the way down for the second strip. And so we're thinking that the kickoff meeting is going to be, they want to do it June 5th or June 6th, June 6th or June 7th with our horrible dates because they're last days of school and people are going crazy those days. But we'll let you know when that kickoff is. They're going to do a ribbon cutting and we're going to host an event. Mbna will host an event after the ribbon cutting is what we're thinking. If the city is adamant about having it on June 5th and June 6th, MBNA will not host the event because MBNA only wants to use our money wisely, and we want it to be a big shebang. We're going to invite all our sponsors to come back, to have booths, to be able to have things, and so we can't do that unless the date makes sense for everybody else. Any comments before we adjourn? June 6th, no, they're going to open it up just prior to the ribbon cutting. They're going to open it up probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks because it's 85% completed, so it takes about a week to 2 weeks to do 5 to 10%. So
we're still waiting for them to do the vegetation, or they're going to open it up prior to finishing up the vegetation along the sides.
They typically don't open until the vegetation is in. The vegetation is very limited. Don't fantasize that it's going to be those little plants that are, as you can see, if you go 53rd North, you're going to see very little vegetation, but they will finish it before they open. So today, the Blue and Green Diamond would love to be able to host something, so let it go on record that we want to join in on the efforts. We would like it to happen in our backyard, since it is the south end of the walk, Mimosa and the Green.
They've agreed to that.
And so they have agreed to that. So as soon as we get a date, we'll do a beautiful flyer, we'll market it.
Unless the date does not work. Unless the date is a date of the last days of school,
right.
and they want to do it at 10 in the morning like they're doing this Friday,
No,
they're
they
going
can't.
to do ribbon cutting for the park next to the convention center.
We're going to try to see if we can do it on the Sunday after, which would be the 8th or 9th, the Sunday.
Right, we prefer weekend.
A Sunday morning.
The city prefers weekends.
Yeah, but if we're hosting,
we can do it.
We'll do it.
So, Officer Halsey, at the last meeting, there was a lot of concerns, which I don't see those members here today, talking about the speed down Collins Avenue and the sports photo. But you had a huge following. We had the folks from the mine, we had the folks from from the May and other properties along Collins Avenue that were really complaining about the speeding and some of the data, what has happened, what's transcribed. The beach walk, we already talked about that, and the security. Can you give us a little bit of an update, Officer Halsey? And I know that your captain is coming back June 12th.
Yes,
Hopefully so. He's coming back June 12th, unless he's coming back. I mean, unless he's busy, unless he's not in an emergency.
Exactly.
Right. So when he comes back, he will speak about these items, correct? There you go.
Thank you. As we mentioned in the previous meeting, we have 2 officers that are assigned to the boardwalk. Their hours vary depending on the needs of, crime and high traffic on the boardwalk. Crime has gone down drastically. We had a lot of people selling drugs. There's a lot of guys selling coconuts, and that's their front to sell the drugs. The issue we are having now is that we were arresting them for obviously the drugs and whatnot. One of the guys even fought one of our officers. He had a bunch of syringes, baggies with drugs, and of course coconuts. With that said, our biggest challenge now is, unfortunately, the city has issued a pilot program for them to sell coconuts, which is a big challenge for us, because now they're legally selling the coconuts, which they weren't before. So we have spoken to city officials, and we're trying to get those permits revoked, because those folks are engines of crime. That's how it all starts. We have these guys out here selling drugs, and then one thing leads to another, and we attract all the bad element that we don't want on the boardwalk. But anyway, other than that, crime has been a lot lower. Basically, they're cleaning up the boardwalk. The more we're out there, the more they go to jail, the less they want to come back. So hopefully, it'll get to a point that they get the message that they're no longer welcome. Obviously, because they're committing crimes, not because of anything else, because a lot of people say, oh, well, that's discrimination for this, that, or the other. But it's not the case. They're out here to steal
So what
drugs.
can the members do if they have concerns, and if you have concerns?
I was going to raise my hand and say, what about the speeding? I mean, somebody just passed me yesterday. He cut in front of me. I was riding with Alice. He cut in front of me, and the guy was doing at least 60 miles an hour.
Okay. Well, speeding is something that also was a concern that was raised last time. Lieutenant Paul Zeta was here, and what he did, he brought the concern to the Captain Ian Robinson, and what they did is that the afternoon shift comes in at 3, the midnight shift comes in at 10, and the day shift comes in at 7. So what they did is, within those hours of the overlap, they're sending the officers specifically to target areas of concern. Obviously, Collins Avenue is not the only area in the city that has concerns. Everybody has different concerns. Be speeding, stop signs,
But is one of the 3
cat
top
feeders, whatever.
concerns It was one of the things that you were mentioning
Well,
earlier.
Now, for like, I guess for this month, or this last period, that was one of the areas
We're
that
the
are
flavor of
being
the month.
focused. So, Collins Avenue is one of the areas, 41st Street to 63rd, the Flamingo Corridor, and the Venetian Islands are the three areas that are being hit
So
during
the
those
times that we
overlaps.
should all drive slowly are 3 p.m.
We should all drive slowly at all times, and carefully. Obviously, we come out here, we enforce. We can't be there all the time. I'm not gonna tell you that we're gonna be there permanently. Unfortunately, people will always speed. That's, I tell people all the time, nobody's gonna stand here in front of you and tell you, you know what, we're gonna stop speeding. That's impossible. That would be a lie. There's always gonna be people gonna speed. We can only catch so many. And we'll go out there and we'll do the enforcement. But unfortunately, I can't tell you, ma'am, next time you're not gonna see a speeder. It's impossible. I can't
If
lie.
I see somebody being stopped on some for speeding, I'm gonna have an orgasm right then and there.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I mean, this is-
Everybody can.
In my neighborhood, they put one of those police cars, a dummy car, just in the side of the street. Can you guys do something like that and call it and just leave it there, or it doesn't really work?
They know that.
No, they don't. Yeah, and then it comes down. So one thing we can do is hopefully have you be part of the advocacy when we redesign Collins Avenue, when we're talking about Collins Avenue, about how to reduce speed, but without creating congestion, right? Allow for traffic to flow, but not at 70 miles per hour in front of our homes. We're going to take one last comment because I, for the first time in many months, am adjourning late. So we are going to wrap up. Yes.
Hello, officer. My name is Clive Pierce. I use the beach walk a lot. This is about the beach walk. And it's been great. I've been using it now since it opened. But recently I've had electric bikes go past me pretty darn quick. And what do you call those things that you stand on? You can,
Segways.
Segways going down there. What is the law about motorized vehicles on the beach walk?
They cannot be on the beach walk. Bicycles or segways. Now they're working
Motorized.
Any motorized vehicle.
Any motorized can't be on
or
there?
skateboards or even rollerblades.
Okay.
They used to do more a thing of liability because of basically the way that slats are laid on the boardwalk.
Now I know.
It's a liability. However, now they're trying or they're working on a citation basically to get folks off the boardwalk and actually write them a citation, an infraction. So that's something that's already in the works.
And we're working
Because
on
before
ways-
we had nothing to, basically to write them a ticket or obviously arrest them for that. It's not going to be the case, but now we're going to have something that we can use to cite them for riding any type of motorized vehicle.
That's for the wooden one?
Yes, for the wooden part, yes.
What about the one that's?
No, the pavers is shared use.
The pavers you can.
Shared, but no motorized.
But no motorized vehicles.
No, there is a resolution that says there's no motorized on the
On the
entire
pavers.
budget, on everything.
But bicycles are allowed.
Bicycles are allowed. We're going to take last two comments. Questions?
Will there ever be consideration for speed bumps? Because when we started walking along the beach walk, and it's amazing how fast even regular bicycles are going fast.
That would be a question for Public Works.
CIP, let's bring it back to CIP.
Probably.
Yes, there were some questions on the boardwalk about the signage. I think somebody had mentioned it from here, and it needed to be more vivid.
No, we haven't updated for it.
Okay, very good. And finally, I know that there was some discussion about having some speed checks on Indian Creek. And did we get any feedback on what we found? Because we were told there was going to be somebody out like the next
Yes,
day.
that's what I was saying. The overlap between the afternoon, for example, when the afternoon comes in at 3, from 3 to 5, there's an overlap. Whatever extra units we have, we're going to send out there. But then again, also, you're not going to see them all the time. Take into consideration the fact that this is a very big geographical area, and there's priorities. It's like triage,
But that's usually not the priority of speeding either. It's usually not happening at 3 o'clock.
No, I get it, but I'm just saying overall.
So you're catching these
if we have people that are calling because they're having a domestic disturbance, that takes, it's a priority. So just think about the call volume. There's a lot of calls. Like this area goes from Dade Boulevard north to 63rd, from the ocean to the bay. So we get a high call volume, and for example, at any given time, when there's no overlap, there's only 6 officers. And one's assigned to the Venetian, one's assigned to North Bay Road. That leaves us with 4. So let's say there's an alarm call. We respond to alarm calls in pairs. So now we have 4 officers. We're in this whole geographical area. And then if 2 are on an alarm call, that leaves 2 guys. You see what I'm saying? So we want to have as many cops available for a call, an emergency to come up. So that's why when we focus on traffic or things that are not of high importance, we need to have units available because God forbid, you know, a robbery, any burglary, any high priority call goes out, we need to have somebody available to respond. So that's why we have the motors. They're dedicated to traffic enforcement. So we have them, and then like I said, those overlap times when we have maybe 12 officers, those are the times where we have a little bit of extra time to deal with whatever issues may be. In this case, speeding, alcohol driving.
Thank you. Thank you all for their comments. Today's meeting has adjourned. We hope to see you June 12th and